Hi, everybody. It's John Adams, and I just want to thank all of you that are joining me live. If you're happening to watch this on the recording, I'm delighted and hope you get to this before your deadline. We're going to talk for about the next 30 minutes on property tax reduction, but for those of you in Glynn County, the deadline to submit your notice of appeal your notice of assessment appeal is Monday, June 29th, and it has to be postmarked by 11:59 p.m. So this is really important, not only for you if you're a property owner, and not only for the people in your farm area, but also for any investors or anybody else you know that owns property in Glynn County, Georgia. So let's forge right on through this. Okay, what we've got here is everything I'm going to tell you only applies in the state of Georgia. Every state of the union has their own rules and regulations and laws surrounding property taxes, so this is only going to apply to Georgia. I'm required to tell you that I am not an attorney and I am not a CPA, so I'm not giving you legal advice, I'm not giving you accounting advice. I'm a longtime real estate broker, and I have specialized in property tax reduction, not only to lower property taxes, but also as a marketing tool for real estate professionals like you and me. The important part of this entire webinar is this. If you own property in Glynn County, Georgia, your deadline to file an appeal of your notice of assessment is Monday, June 29th, 2020, and it has to be postmarked if you want to mail it by 11:59 p.m. You won't be able to hand deliver after 4 p.m. when they close the place. So my advice is to mail it and make sure you get a postmark on it by 11:59 p.m. By the way, Glynn County stupidly does not accept online filing, they don't accept email, and they don't accept faxes. Thanks for the customer service, when most counties in Georgia do. But that's beside the point. The reason you want to be doing this, real estate professionals, as a marketing tool is that all owners want to know what their house is worth. All owners hate paying property taxes. You need to meet those owners and view those houses, and you can generate a CMA, or an estimate of value, in about 30 seconds, and you become the expert in that area, which is what you should be striving for anyway. And I'm sure you've all sent out things like this. Here's a gift certificate for a free analysis of your home's market value. Here's one from Century 21. Although this is Katoomba in Canada, not Brunswick in Georgia, but nonetheless, you can say it has a value of $375, and it's similar to a broker price opinion. Now remember, we're not allowed to do appraisals unless you're licensed as an appraiser, but as a real estate licensee, you are authorized to render what are called broker price opinions, which are pretty much the same thing. It's just that you can't say, I hereby appraise the value of this property on this date to be this amount. That's holding yourself out as an appraiser. And so today, the only thing we're going to talk about, when I do my full 3-hour presentation, I talk about all these other things. Today, because tomorrow is the deadline, I'm only going to talk about your notice of assessment. So we all know that property taxes in Georgia are called ad valorem taxes. That's Latin for according to value. And that's basically how they estimate what your tax or what your property is worth, and that's what your tax bill comes from. In Georgia, once the notice of assessment has been mailed by the tax assessor's office, the owner of the property has 45 days from the claimed date of mailing. Now, the law doesn't require that the post office deliver it. So you may never have gotten the notice of assessment. That's beside the point. Your deadline in Glynn County is tomorrow, which is June 29th by, I would say, 4 p.m. if you want to get a postmark on it, okay? And basically we're talking about what is fair market value, and the question is, what was the fair market value of the property in question on January 1st, 2020? Now the question doesn't need to be answered today because all you're trying to do is appeal. Get the appeal in. You don't have to have your own estimate of value in order to file the appeal. Obviously, the value of a property is in the eye of the beholder. This is the way you see your property. This is the way a buyer sees your property. This is the way a lender sees your property. This is the way an appraiser sees your property. And of course, this is the way the tax assessor sees your property. So the beholder certainly is important. And the beholder at this point is the Glynn County tax assessor. I don't care what they put down. I would go ahead and appeal it. Remember that you can appeal in writing. You have to appeal in writing, and once you've appealed, you may drop the appeal at any time, and they have to accept that. And you just say, okay, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to pursue an appeal. I accept the county's notice of value on the notice of assessment, and it's all over. So you're not putting yourself in some sort of double jeopardy here. What's the payoff? Well, with good comps and some REO resales, you could literally cut your tax bill in half. As you may know, in Georgia, reset property tax values typically are not reviewed for the next 2 years, and the greater the overall value of your holdings, the more you have at stake. So those of you that have customers, clients, or prospects in homes that are worth more than a couple $100,000, certainly everybody on St. Simon's and Sea Island, holy mackerel, you need to be getting in touch with them tomorrow and saying, would you like me to file an appeal for you? I can do that, and maybe help them out. So now, how can we also do this as a marketing tool? Well, the payoff for the agent is that you become the obvious expert in the area where the property is located. You become your farm area's realtor of choice, and it works with anybody because nobody likes to pay high property taxes. So basically, your plan of action is going to be to reach out tomorrow and try to get as many people as you can to file an appeal, and then you help them pursue that or drop the appeal. There's no downside to them filing an appeal and then dropping it, except it costs them, what is it, a postage stamp. I don't know how much they are anymore. Your notice of assessment appeal is due tomorrow. That is June 29th in Glynn County and several other counties in Georgia. Unfortunately, every county has their own mailing date, which means we've got 159 counties here. It's the biggest mess you've ever seen, and I wish the state would clean it up, but they have no intention of doing so. You know that every owner is very interested in value. You know that every owner is very concerned about taxes, and you become the gatekeeper to the information that they really want. And so my experience, and I can't, prove this, but based on my experience, is if you have data that supports your position and you just file the form, you've got about a 1 in 3 chance of getting a reduction. If you will actually meet with the appraiser and if the data supports you, that goes to 50%. If you actually attend the Board of Equalization meeting and you have data that supports you, I think 2 out of 3. And if you have actually an appraisal of the property, you've got a 90% that supports your position. You've got about a 90% chance here. So I think it's well worthwhile. We'll talk more about this later. So let's look specifically at what the appeal has to look like. And you literally have 45 days from the date the county claimed that they mailed you the notice of assessment. The key is that that 45-day deadline is final and there are no exceptions. So your notice of assessment should look like this. This one happens to be DeKalb County, but the one for Glynn County should look very similar, and it should say official tax matter. Obviously, it's going to say 2020 right over here. And this was the date they claim they mailed, and this is the last date to file a written appeal. So in Glynn County, the last date is June 29th. This is the property owner's mailing address on file, the record property holder's mailing address. That form also has your staff contacts, but don't waste your time calling them tomorrow. The key is to get your appeal form in, and here's the minimum information you need to file an appeal. You need the property ID number and the property address. And if there is an account number, and by the way, that's on your notice of assessment, if there is an account number, not every county has account numbers, I would include it as well. And all you have to do is plug that into a I wish to appeal letter and get a postmark on it, and you are done. There's no form specifically required, but I'm going to give you one in just a second here. But literally, you could, I had a tax commissioner tell me one time in some county in Georgia, I said, do you require the form? He said, look, if somebody mailed in a cocktail napkin and just wrote on it, I wish to appeal, and then put their name and property address, I would accept it. So Georgia law says that a written objection to an assessment of real property received by a county board of tax assessors that states the location of the real property and the identification number, if any, contained in the tax notice shall be deemed a notice of appeal by the taxpayer. So you literally can, as long as you've got the location address and the identification number from the notification of assessment, you're all set. This would be a sample appeal letter. Dear Board of Assessors, I wish to appeal the recent valuation of my real property in the 2020 Notice of Assessment, and I wish to appeal. I think I just said that twice. My property is located at 615 Ocean Boulevard, St. Simons Island, Georgia, and the property ID number is 8675309 or something like that. Sincerely, Mr. J. Lance Longbottom, or whatever your name is there. So again, this is what you need, the minimum for filing an appeal. Now, if you want to use the proper form, and I recommend that you do, you have to use what's called a form PT311A. Now, if you're watching this seminar, then you should, or this webinar, you should be on a web page that will allow you to download the most current PT311A. You can also get it from the Georgia Department of Revenue, and you can also get it on my website at money99.com. You could probably get it at your county tax site, and your county may have a county-specific form, but you're not required to use that. Every county in Georgia is required under Georgia law to accept the PT311A. Here's what it looks like. Obviously, you're going to want to put in here your name, the address of the property in question, the city, and the state. I take it back. This is your mailing address, and so this could be a P.O. box if you wanted, and your city, state, and zip, and then you check the box here that says real for real property. It's not personal property. You put in here the property ID number, and then you put in the location of the property. And that's just about all there is to it. Let me show you the rest of it. On the right-hand side of the form, they ask for a couple of telephone numbers. You're not required to provide that, but I do. And they ask for an email address. You're not required to provide that, but I do. And then if your county has an account number, the reason this one does is it's DeKalb County, and DeKalb County is assigned account numbers in addition to property ID numbers, which I don't know why they did that, but they did it. I'd go ahead and fill in the account number. And then you must specify your grounds for appeal. Check the first two, value and uniformity. We'll talk about why later. Do not check taxability, exemption denied, or breach of covenant. Just the first two. And then, going the wrong direction. And then you must select the avenue of appeal. You want BOE, which stands for Board of Equalization. You don't want arbitration because it's too expensive, and you don't want hearing officer. You want Board of Equalization. And then you have to tell them again what the property class is. Now, under property owner comments, you can leave that blank. Under property class, I would check residential, and under signature of property owner, that's where you're going to sign as the property owner. Okay? And then there's a part of it that says owner agent declared value. You are not required to fill that out, even though it says right on the form that you are required to fill that out. You're not. And so I would leave this blank at this point. This will not cause a problem. I personally guarantee it. If it does, you call me at 404-373-6000 and we'll get it straightened out. We've got 159 counties in Georgia, and some of them, like Chatham County, people call it the People's Republic of Chatham, where they have their own rules and their own laws. Well, I'm sorry, the Department of Revenue does not allow that, and you can leave this blank, and the DOR will go to work and straighten it out for you. So I wouldn't put anything in there because you'll be stuck with it. So remember, under types of appeals, you want market value and uniformity. You do not want to appeal based on taxability or anything else. But the action step here is to get your appeal filed by Monday the 29th at 11:59 p.m. If you're going to get it postmarked, that means you've got to get it to the post office, I assume by 4 o'clock or whenever they close. And it will very likely be postmarked that same day, which would be the 29th. If you're watching this on Sunday, you could put it in the mailbox today. I don't know if they pick it up. So after you file your appeal, you have time to gather your data. You have time to meet with an appraiser. You have time to negotiate. You have time for a site visit, time for an appraisal, and you also have time to withdraw. Remember, at any point after filing an appeal, you can simply notify the tax assessor that you have decided to withdraw, and nothing else will happen. The value in the notice of assessment will occur, and that will be your valuation for the tax year 2020 that we are now in. So after you file your appeal, first you need to know that it may be over a year before you get a Board of Equalization hearing. That's in some of the bigger counties. I think Glynn County does a better job. But in any case, it's probably going to be several months after you appeal before you even hear from them. And so it gives you time to decide what you want to do next. The key here is you need to take action now, because once we get past Monday night at midnight, you have lost the right to appeal in Glynn County, Georgia. Time is of the essence, and I think you know exactly what that means. So this is your action step. Appeal your assessment. The deadline is Monday, June 29th. I can't say that often enough. And this is the last slide in the presentation. I'm going to jump back in now, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Please type them in to the, what box do we want them? The chat box? Q&A. Oh, Q&A. Please click the button that says Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer those questions right now. Thanks so much, and I'll be right back.